is going to be the final video in the Creative Art Quilt series. In this video, you will see how I create some dimension to the possum using trapunto, and then quilting, and finally going to bind and call this possum done. So I'm really excited to finally get to this video for a couple of reasons. One, I've been working on this project for several years, which is way too long to get through an art quilt in my opinion, but with everything that was going on in my life, it just took a long time. The second reason is because I really love the possum. It is such a cool creature, and I originally started this because I was really interested in the nature and the wildlife in my area, and the possum just seemed like such a perfect animal to represent in an art quilt. So I hope you appreciate all of the videos, and please reach out if you have any questions or if there's any other art quilts that you'd like me to try to show you how I'd create. So my goal here is to create a little bit of dimension to kind of bring out the leg and the tail of the possum, and I'm going to do that with trapunto. So that's why I am applying a piece of fabric and using just fusible web. It will peel up a little bit when I go to kind of stuff it. So I'm just putting fusible web on that space. And then I'm going to stitch around the leg and around the tail. So now what I'm going to do is create a little cut in that layer, and using a stiletto, I'm going to stuff it with some batting. So this process can be a little finicky, and it takes some patience. So the result is that the tail is like raised and rounded, so it has some dimension to it. I added trapunto to some of the areas of the possum, and I also added some form to the possum baby's faces and to the mama's face. All right, so now I am ready to quilt this possum. So I've got some plain gray backing here. I had to seam it in the center. I'm repurposing fabric since our primary local fabric source has been closed, and I didn't get a chance to get to the local quilt shop. So I've got some plain gray fabric, and I am using 100% cotton batting. So I lay that batting on there, smooth it out, and here is Mama Possum. So that quilt goes right on top of the batting and the backing. I've got plenty of space around the edge. I do not have a long arm machine. I am using my Baby Lock, which has a really big throat and is great for quilting. So I'm going to smooth that out there, and then I'm going to pin in a few spots. And when I start quilting, I am first going to quilt around Mama here. And that's going to kind of secure that focal artwork in place. And then I can start using textured quilting to fill in all of the space around her. All right, so I've got my machine loaded with some Aurifil thread, and I'm going to stitch all the way around the possum to secure her in place. So I'm going to be using the same color thread on the whole quilting surface. I'm using an Aurifil, and it's kind of a light grayish beige. And I'm hoping that will blend in even with the darks and the lights. But I don't want to do any color changes for the quilting. So I've got the Mama all tacked down, and I'm gonna go and do all of the sky. And then for the trees and the branches, I'm just gonna kind of do straight lines. I did sort of like a wavy line for the sky. I'm gonna do more straight back and forth lines for the tree. So a little sneak peek at the back. This is what the tree looks like from the back. Still kind of looks like a tree. The last texture that I'm quilting are the leaves, and I kind of used this leaf shape when I was doing the thread painting, so I'm going to mimic that shape for the quilting. And it seems my thread has broken. All right, I rethreaded and ready to continue. This is the back of the possum art quilt after it's been quilted. And here's the front. So the last part is to trim and bind. so I've got the binding sewn to the front and then wrapped around the edge and clipped in place. So now it is time to hand bind the back. So I'm glad that this quilt is nearly finished. It's been several years in the making. When I first started it, it was a bit of a collaboration with my husband, and I appreciated his artistic point of view. And it was tough to not have his input anymore after I lost him. So the idea was that I would create quilts of wildlife, and that kind of started with the birds quilt that I did, that I hand painted the blocks for the birds. But I really like the opossum, the opossum. So the North American opossum is about the size of a domestic cat. And it's got a little pointed nose and a skinny rat-like tail, and some people might think they're kind of ugly. They are marsupials, which means that they carry their babies in a pouch, just like kangaroos and koalas, and their babies are also called joeys. So these adorable little critters are omnivorous. They will eat almost anything from insects to rats, birds, frogs, plants when they have to. And they also scavenge for trash food left by people. I even had chickens once, and the possums enjoyed getting into the coop and ate the eggs. They didn't really try to kill the chickens like some other predators did. They don't live very long, only a few years. They're often killed on roadways or by predators. And the babies, when they're born, are tiny, 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 like super tiny. And by the time they're ready to ride mama's back, they're actually a few months old. So some people do think that these guys are not really the best animal to have around, but they actually don't carry very many diseases, and they're not likely to have rabies. In fact, they even eat ticks. I personally think these craggly little creatures are so cute. Thank you so much for watching this series, watching this video, and I really appreciate all of the likes and subscribes.